Billions of puppets with poisoned minds, permanently fixed on one unifying goal: to spread the infection to every last human alive by any means necessary. And there are no treatments for this, no preventatives, no cures. They don't exist. It's not even possible to make them.
So if that happens,
we lose.
We'll be back.
Hey, I'm Derek.
And I'm Noah, and you're listening to A Bite of,
where we take our current favorite pop culture obsession and enjoy it one nibble at a time.
Wow, again, second episode where nibbling is very appropriate for our podcast.
This is more like big bites of humans.
While also passing spores and fungi between.
Delicious.
So we're very, very excited to talk about the new HBO series, Last of Us, based on the hit, critically acclaimed, one of my favorite games of all time.
The world's favorite games.
The world. It is actually, I think as of today or yesterday, it's available worldwide now. So if you're listening to us and it wasn't available there, you can probably go play it now. I'm sure.
Do you want to be emotionally wrecked by a video game? Well, do we have the perfect one for you? Now watch it, starring Pedro Pascal on HBO Max.
That's a plug. All right, before we get into it, as always, make sure you're following us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at A Bite of Pod. We have a bunch of other social media and everything like that. Go to the show notes /description. You'll find all the links there. Additionally, we have a Patreon. We're sending out some of our new Patreon perks that we have this week, and they're pretty cool. Maybe like a motel tag keychain. It's really nice. But if you like the show, support the show and get bonus episodes and stuff. We have the menu as a review up there for Patreon only for a limited time. So you get episodes first. It's nice.
Breaking news.
And then last but not least, subscribe, review, leave some stars, all that great stuff. All right. Spoiler warning.
Yeah.
Big time. Huge spoiler warning. We don't want to infect you with spoilers. It's gross.
Spoilers.
You know, it's going to be real. We can't say infected just because it's so weird. You know, it just feels weird now. I don't know.
Well, I don't think you ever really want to say infect on a podcast about pop culture, but when it fits, this fits.
Infectious?
Oh, sure. Infectious laughter. That's nice.
Well, you've been warned. Spoilers for... we're going to get into the game as well, I'm sure, throughout the course of this. So if you don't mind spoilers on that aspect, hang tight.
Let us officially take a bite of The Last of Us Episode 1, When You're Lost in the Darkness.
Seek the light.
Fireflies will welcome you home.
So this is actually one of our, I think mutually and maybe more on my side, but most anticipated things that's coming out this year. I was very excited, not only for the cast, but this property in general. I didn't think that we would be able to get something that could adapt this to the level and care that it needed to be. If you saw Uncharted and played the games, you know that it could possibly not pay off. The adaptation between game and screen has not been great.
It could always be a little rough. But I mean, with HBO Max at the helm, that's always a good sign. With Pedro Pascal leading the cast, never a bad thing.
No.
I mean, he is giving me my number one pop culture daddy moment.
He's really going to be dominating the first quarter of the year because he also has season 3 of The Mandalorian coming out.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
This dude is like, I'm just going to be everybody's like favorite dad.
Yeah.
And everything.
I mean, this one's a little more exciting because we actually get to see his face, which is fun.
Yeah, true.
Right?
True.
He's just, listen, if you're ever in a pinch in any movie or television show, what you do is you get Pedro Pascal to look after your kid and all will be well.
One of the early things that made me very excited for this series, not only because of the company that was backing it and the cast, but we had Chernobyl's Craig Mazin, or Mazin. I think it's Mazin. I added an R. I'm sorry. But Craig Mazin. So if you've seen that limited series on HBO, Intimate, terrifying, government hiding secrets. Very well done. But we also got the creator of Last of Us directing, executive producing, writing this as well. So it has all the workings to make something great.
That's a big deal. When you can always bring the originator of the work to the adaptation of it, I think that is always a step in the right direction.
And not even just a guest writer or just like a executive producer, like they consulted with them.
Mm-hmm.
They're doing it for all 9 episodes this season.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, you're going to be hearing us talk about this for 9 weeks.
I always forget that part. Whenever we jump into a new series or a new season of something, it's like, oh yeah, we're doing this for a very long time. I'll have aged 2 months by the end of this.
But we will be coming out with other episodes as well. You know, we kind of broke out of the season format. So we're going to spice it up a little bit. You know, it just won't be infected talk. It will maybe be other things as well.
Some other zombie property.
We're going to do all zombie properties,
Yes.
starting with World War Z all the way to 28 Days Later.
Look, I have to be honest. I surprisingly love a zombie film.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like I have very weird likes and dislikes when it comes to horrors. Zombies is one of my likes.
Well, so getting into the conversation, the flesh and potatoes of this episode.
He is going deep into this zombie biting human spore infected thing right now.
Of course. Yeah. Why you cannot. But so let's do what we normally do. The first reactions that you had for this episode when the very simple credits rolled. It's just black screen, white text. Loved it. But how did you feel? Like, did it meet some of your expectations? Did it exceed them?
Oh, I think it definitely met my expectations. Now, granted, I haven't played the game full through.
But
for those,
you know.
I know. I know. But we won't spoil that much on this first episode. I am more of a game watcher as my role in life. So I've seen people play the game. And I've been lucky enough to see that like first part play out. And I think what sort of exceeded my expectations in like an exciting way is that first sort of prologue moment really felt like it came right from the game.
Yeah.
The view that you had looking out the windshield, seeing the madness in the streets. And I think that was exciting to see as people who are fans of the game, right? That's what we want.
Right.
We want to see it feel true. We want to see it definitely feel like the same world. And I definitely think they did that. I think at the end of the episode, I'm intrigued to see what's going on next.
Yeah. Intrigued by the journey.
Yeah.
You're in it for the journey.
And I think part of it, right, things to look forward to are how Joel and Ellie's relationship is going to build, because they're still strangers at this point.
But they're also that's the thing that I think if they nail that, which so far in this first episode, I like that. They're almost magic on screen together in the short amount of time. If they nail that, that's what this is about. That's what this story is about these two. And they got to nail it. And so far, I don't see them not nailing it. So that made me very happy. That's what I was really, really wanting to see. I like both of those actors separately, but to see them come together, it was great. It was fantastic. You know, the episode 1 covers the game's infamous prologue, about 30 minutes of the first episode before it really kicks off and gets us to our current story. And I think doing that brand of Last of Us, like dystopia, showcasing that and how it got there, they took more of their time doing that in the show than they did in the game. In the game, it was still very effective, but here I feel like it was really effective because now you're talking to general audiences. It's one thing maybe it's hard to adapt games into screen type things because, you know, you have the story, you have the cutscenes or the dialogue during things, but you have objectives to do in the game.
You're the one controlling it.
Exactly.
It's a different mechanic of interacting with it.
Yeah, and how they tell the story. So some of the things that we see, even in this episode, there's some Easter eggs, like Sarah. She gives her dad, she borrowed a movie from the neighbors, gives the dad. That was actually an Easter egg from the second game when Ellie's like, oh, I'm going to invite Joel over to watch, you know, this movie. And it was that exact movie. So there's little tiny things, but in the game, that's how it unfolds. So it's nice to see how they do it in a show format. But they had to win over general audiences.
Yeah. I did see a tweet that made me laugh. Someone wrote, I really like this adaptation of The Last of Us onto the screen. But one thing that I didn't appreciate them leaving out was them dying 20 times within the first 10 minutes of the game.
And then restarting.
And having to restart it.
Oh, man. Well, now whenever somebody dies, they're just done.
Yeah, exactly.
They can't come back. So I did, as far as a game to screen adaptation, I don't want to like go over this too much, but I feel like, just like Derek said, it was a beat for beat recreation of it, but they added some original content and elements to it that I think just enhanced it altogether. So the first part, the prologue, we could talk about that a little bit. Sarah, oh my God. Nico Parker, phenomenal. Her performance was she had to hook you.
Yeah.
And she did it. She knew she only had that 30 minutes to really get you, and you loved her.
Well, you know, the interesting thing about this first 30 minutes is that this 30 minutes has to be the reason for all of Joel's actions moving through 8.5 more episodes.
It's like the catalyst for the whole thing.
So we have to be able to get his relationship with his daughter. We have to realize how special it is, how special she is, how much she meant to not only her dad, but to her uncle, to the neighbors next door. She was a special human, and we needed to feel that. And I think that Nico was able to do that for us as the viewer.
They had a interesting job as well to have Ellie and Sarah complete opposites of each other, but to ignite that thing in Joel to where he wants to protect them, wants to be a father figure, wants to do these types of things. So it's interesting to see both of them on how they are, but how differently they are.
Well, yeah. Well, Sarah is like the yin to his yang.
Yeah.
And Ellie is just the yang to his yang.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're both a yang.
But then that's why they butt heads.
Right. I mean, there's even the thing of, as far as similarities of between Ellie and Joel, is obviously they're both strong-willed. They both sort of maybe lead with their fierceness first, but even the fact that they both have knives.
Yeah.
Right? They have these knives, and it's just that part of the character. And I think that that's just a simple thing that was added in, right? We're shown Sarah going through his drawers, seeing the knife, and then we see Ellie holding her knife.
Yeah, she put it back.
Right.
She didn't take it. So there's a difference.
But they just showed the audience that knife to let us know.
I liked the setup for this prologue. And we'll talk about the very opening of the episode in a minute, but I can't not talk about Nico Parker.
Conversations flowing, baby. Let it go like a river.
But I liked how they structured this, because when you're playing the game, you're playing as Sarah for a little bit and you're like looking for your dad. You can go through the house and look at things and everything like that. This one, you sat with I was going to say Nico, with Sarah a little longer, and you got to see the cracks in the dam before it just broke. So, you know, with the sirens, more police presence, the radio, everything, it just seemed a little eerie.
Yeah, the little breadcrumbs of what was going on behind her normal day.
And it was, I think her reaction to that in like a Bush era post 9/11 type thing was reasonable. It was to be expected. You know, one of the first things she says is a terrorist. Mm-hmm. So I think like even just going back to like 2003 and how they phrased all of this and how they showed it, it was, I think, pretty accurate to the time.
You know, what he and his brother have to do for work in order to survive after they've done serving the country. I think there's a bit of a commentary on that as well. One of the interesting things that I just thought of her going throughout her day, maybe it was just a detail that was left in there, but it feels like it might have had more significance. When she's in class, the light from someone's bracelet is shown in her eyes, and it kind of blinds her for a second.
The dude, her classmate was having ticks, like twitches. He was infected, or they were infected.
Oh, gotcha.
If you look at the wrist, it's like flinching a little bit. So it's showing that it's already happening. Yeah. It's already there. Because we know that the neighbors, which were completely new characters added for this, and I think it was perfect because it turned out terrifying.
That first moment with the mother, the grandmother, let's say, like convulsing in the chair silently, was...
She had to... I don't exactly know why she goes over there. I think I want to say it was to help, but maybe just to keep them company almost, or somebody's watching her I guess at the end of the day, kind of like a twofold thing.
Well, I feel like she's probably known them her whole life.
Right.
And now she's a teenager and she's sort of over it. But she
Just a
keeps
little
doing
bit.
it just to be nice.
But that scene where she's looking at the movies and then you just see the old woman behind her just acting not totally fine. And then the dogs always know.
The dogs always know.
If a dog is acting like that towards anybody, you get that person away from you because they're infected.
Always trust the dog.
Yeah. But it was great. And then leading up to the night where everything went to hell, her going into that house, seeing the horror that was there, and then seeing that old woman just be a complete monster was terrifying. And seeing it from her perspective, she's just like, ah.
Yeah, well, especially because the whole thing with the woman, there's the sort of throwaway lines. Oh, she doesn't move, she doesn't talk, she can't even hear me, she's catatonic. And then she's literally bolting after her after eating her family. Like,
yeah.
It's such a juxtaposition from how she has experienced her that it's incredibly frightening.
Yeah. So 20 years before we get to Boston, they're in Austin.
Boston and ass.
Yeah. Which, as a Austin semi-native and used to live there, pretty accurate with how it looks. It could be very fieldy in some areas, and then you're smack dab in the center of a town.
Mm-hmm.
Great. I was actually today I was trying to find exactly where they were because the sign mimics the game. Like, it has the highways, Austin's this way, San Marcos is this way. I was trying to find it. It looks like they're near the airport, which in the end makes a little more sense. But leading up to the part where the prologue ends, the outbreak scene, usually zombie or infected or monster type properties have this outbreak scene where it's like this, it's happening. Like, it was leading up to this and the monsters are loose. Them trying to find a way to go, trying to get out of there, not knowing what's happening. I think they did this so effectively because they have no idea and you can't go anywhere. Where are you going to go? The highways are all backed up. This seems so realistic that thinking about it too much is terrifying.
Agreed. Because I think the thing is when watching that scene of them trying to figure out where to go, I very much felt like Sarah in the back seat, kind of just a passenger, not really knowing what's happening, seeing the adults yelling at each other.
Right.
And they're just twisting and turning all over the place. I mean, obviously,
trying to go anywhere.
Yeah, Joel and Tommy obviously know the area. Try this street, go south, go north, do this, do that. But it didn't matter, no matter where they went. But if you think about it, there's that thought, like you always have that moment in watching these things of, what if this happened? How would I react to this? Like, I just feel like me being like, get the dogs in the car. But then what do? You just go.
Personally, okay, in this scenario, if the tiny little bit of hints of something like this were happening, immediately gone. I don't know if I would do a car route because, one, we're on Long Island and we can only escape through bridges.
There's only so many ways.
So we're going to get a boat, steal a boat, and go out into the water. Go to Fire Island, maybe.
Oh, party time.
But there's not that many people there and there's no cars. So
yeah, true.
I don't know. But this outbreak scene was so good. From the moment of them in the car where the plane crashes their car. In the game, a car crashes their car. But they have HBO money now.
Oh, yeah.
And they're like, drop a plane.
Watch this.
Yeah. So we have Joel and Sarah and Tommy. They get separated, which is another part of the show that is, Joel trying to get back to Tommy. So they obviously have met within those 20 years, but they do separate a little bit. And I think that's important for the story. Here, when we first encounter our chase of an infected with them through those shops where he's carrying Sarah, they have different names for infected. And there's like the runners, the bloaters, the clickers, stalkers, all of those. The runners are just regular infected that can run after you.
Mm-hmm.
They did it so well. Just wanting to run towards you. Doesn't matter if they run into things, fall, hit themselves, and they're just going to keep going.
It almost looked so primal that at points they're running on all fours.
Yeah. Like, the old woman did too.
Yes, like off of countertops into doors. I have to admit, in watching this, I'm that person that's trying to solve the problem for the characters. I'm like, close the door behind you. What are you doing?
Right. So unfortunately, we get to the part where it is the catalyst for Joel, and Sarah unfortunately dies, which we do get mirrors of this scene throughout this series, and it's important for the character. The fact that the government is just telling people to kill people that they think are infected, because they don't know either, but these decisions are obviously costing lives. But it's the acting, the thing that it was just so ugly, so terrifying, and they didn't hold back.
No, I feel like in scenes like this, in general, there's always like Dad, I'm sorry. And
Right.
It's like very quiet. This felt very visceral. Oof. When he moved her, she was in pain. She was crying. Like it took a toll on the viewer. And I think that's also the thing, right? So not only is this the catalyst for Joel, but this is also the catalyst for the viewer. We're watching this character that they made us fall in love with die brutally in the arms of her father. So now we're looking for some sort of vengeance to make that right.
Oh, yeah. When playing this game the first time through and experiencing that does not get easier. Seeing it for like the fourth time.
No.
I'm just going to say.
It was fun. I remember seeing it for the first time and being very confused because I was like, wait a minute, this isn't the girl on the box. Who's this girl? And then you're like, oh no. Yeah. It got so sad. That's why she's not on the box.
Yeah. The prologue was great. I'm glad that they spent time doing it. It was 30 minutes. It was well deserved. We needed it as a viewer to understand this journey and the story. Let's talk about the opening.
1968.
Because this is more information than anybody that's ever played the game has ever gotten about anything. And it happened years before it actually happened and the outbreak happened, the infected. And so there's a talk show program where they have these epidemic specialists, these scientists talking. And I think it's an interesting conversation because it's kind of terrifying because the science is wonky, but it makes sense. So fungi can't infect a host where their body temperature is a certain temperature, but things will evolve to their environment. And as the earth gets slowly warmer, so will the fungi. And then it will eventually reach to where it can infect the temperature of a human body. It was good. I loved that they added that detail.
Well, I have to admit, in watching it, right, so there's these two men on the panel, the two specialists, and one of them is talking about sort of viruses in general, which hits home for us having experienced COVID in our world.
Woof.
And then we have this other guy who's sort of like, he's giving us the basis for the spread of this new infection for the game. But as he's talking, like you said, it starts to make sense. And so I looked into it a little bit, and the thing that he's talking about is the zombie ant fungi. It's called Ophiocordyceps unilateralis. It's a fungus. And the thing is that it drives the ants to go where it is warmer so that it can spread. And in this one little Nat Geo clip that I saw, it's not just in ants anymore. It's now spread to other types of insects. So the thing is that it is learning.
Yeah.
Right? And so it's still doing insects now, but it could be possible in some way.
We get in this short, 5-minute scene where this guy that's talking about the fungus or the fungi and this type of infection is viruses are one thing. Usually, you can get over them. People are immune. They die, everything like that, how viruses work. We're all kind of almost experts in it at this day and age. But the cordyceps, which is actually the infection that's in the game as well, the spores are a big part of the game. He lays the groundwork for how devastating this is because there is no cure. There's no stopping this. It's just going to happen. Like, you can't not have that. But I thought it was cool that they gave you that up front because you almost find that out in bits and pieces. But I feel like as the viewer, you need to almost have this kind of foreshadowing happen for it to make sense. But also we got more information. So great.
And it's and one of the and I use fun as an interesting term here, but one of the most fun parts about it is that this old school 60s chat show leaves you feeling uncomfortable.
Right.
And it set the tone for going into our 2003 scene.
The shot of the audience just being almost passive, catatonic, listening to this person talk about this stuff and just not really having any effect with what he's saying was eerie. The way they shot that was really eerie because you had the host trying to ham up stuff. And then he's like, I'm just going to tell you the facts here. It's not good.
Well, if you think about it, we're all just waiting victims.
Okay.
And the fungus can do what it wants, and we're all just sitting there letting it happen.
On to
just like
more.
The audience.
No. On to less devastating things.
Less? We're still in this episode.
I know, I'm kidding. 2023 in Boston. So 20 years after the events of the prologue. This is where we get our characters. This is where we get where they are now. We get the journey beginning. This show has some work to do. Outside of adapting the game and getting people into it, it has to separate itself from like The Walking Dead. And I don't want to talk about that show too much into this one because they're so different. And I do want to say, if you're kind of on the fence or like, oh, it's going to be Walking Dead, I feel like the difference between them, the two, is that it's not The Last of Us about the infected. It's The Last of Us about these two people and about the relationships. It's about relationships. The scene, I thought we were seeing young Ellie when the little person
Kid,
in the red hoodie is walking and they're infected and everything. But seeing Joel, just no emotion, just dropping the kid into the fire, that's telling you where he's at. He's not here for it anymore. He's like, I'm just going to work. I'm going to be a drug dealer. I'm going to be a smuggler. I'm going to be all these things because what else does he do?
Well, he's so hardened, right? He's lost the thing that means the most to him. And so
broken.
He's broken. He's just going through the motions of life. He's in survival mode. He's just doing whatever it takes, because I think there's also a piece of him that maybe is like, well, fuck it. What if I get caught? What if I die? It doesn't matter anymore.
Right. He's broken. He's at the lowest of lows. And it's such an interesting thing to start a story this way. Not bring this person here to break them. And then this story is they're broken. They're going to get better, break again, get better, break again. But it's about that. It's about the ebb and flow of a person and the relationships that they have. I want to know what the quarantine bucks mean.
Yeah, agreed.
And I want to know the currency value and also what the colors mean.
There's a green 4. There was like a beige 1, I think.
Yeah.
And they've been passed around because they don't. Yeah, that was one of the things that I also thought. I was like, wow, so the government got some sort of printing press going to get the quarantine bucks.
I mean, they give your timestamp or reminders on just regular note paper with a stamp. So I don't think, can anybody just recreate this like quarantine bucks? Like, where's the watermark? I want to know.
If you got some colored pencils, you're in business, baby.
Yeah. It's definitely a hard knock life in these quarantine zones. It does look very disproportionate if you're a part of the government and also just a normal citizen here.
Yeah, and it's that thing of the world has been destroyed and yet you still have someone controlling your life.
Right.
We're all just trying to survive at this point, and then people, and it's like, well, you can't eat unless you got your quarantine bucks.
But also, you can't leave your house from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. So, because we want you to be safe.
I have to admit, so there's a part in this where we see how sort of extreme they are if you break the rules, right? There's people at the gallows that are being hung for leaving the quarantine zone or coming into the quarantine zone unauthorized. And it gave me very much a Hunger Games feel.
A little bit.
Right? And right when they're doing the reaping and they're all kind of watching it happen. And then actually it's in Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. They do something similar where they hang people in front of folks.
Yep.
So that's a theme, I guess, in dystopians.
It's the control. They used to do it for control. And then when you break down all your systems of control, you go back to the old ways. It's very brutal. It's a staple dystopian thing to hang people in front of other people. I don't like it, but
no, it's horrendous.
Yeah. But one of the main players that we get introduced in this part of the episode is Tess. And it's not clear. They make it more apparent in the show that Joel and Tess have some type of romantic relationship. It's a little more ambiguous for the game players. I like that they just kind of got to the punch, but also didn't show the intensity of the relationship or the seriousness of it.
Well, that's, it's I'm glad you brought this up, because that was actually one of the questions I had, is because we don't see them in any way showing major affection, right? There isn't kissing, there isn't hand holding.
They're spooning.
There's a little spooning, right? She comes in, it's like she already knows. He's already at that broken down point. He's taken pills, he's drank a whole bunch of moonshine or bootleg or whatever. And she comes in, she sleeps next to him, she wakes up, he cares for her wounds, they talk in that way, but there's nothing past that. It's almost like they're just real, real good friends, or people who sought each other out for comfort, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's romantic.
Yeah, they definitely seem to have found each other in the trade that they do, but they like each other enough to kind of live together and share everything.
And there's trust there.
Yeah, but Joel, maybe because of how he is and not, losing the person that is not Ellie, Sarah's mother beforehand, and then losing Sarah, he probably just doesn't completely attach himself to things, and that's the most he's let somebody in since then.
Absolutely.
We get some Firefly stuff. So we have to talk about the Fireflies and almost what their role in the show is. So the Fireflies they're a resistance group. So think of the rebels in Star Wars. It's almost how they are. The government, the QZ zones, they're very hard. They're doing what they want to do, and it doesn't matter if it's hurting people or not. They just want to keep you safe, but also
beat you down,
and
control you.
Yeah, it's not a nice way of living.
They probably make them pay taxes.
Yeah, and so that's really the soldiers and everything. It's under Fedra, and that's what the government is at this point. So you have the Fireflies and Fedra, and where the Fireflies come into the story, they get a hold of Ellie. And they know, Marlene specifically knows that Ellie is immune because she's been bit. Usually people don't even last more than a day or a couple hours before turning into infected. But Ellie has had that bite for a good minute. Yeah. And so they want to transfer her. They want to take her somewhere where they can see if they can produce a cure, because she's the only one, to their knowledge, that has been immune in any way. And so we have a bunch of moving pieces here. We have Joel. We have what the Fireflies are after. We have Ellie just happened to be immune and being carted everywhere. And how does she feel about that? Does she want to help? Does she not? I'm interested to see how they do that in the show. Like, is she going to be super supportive of like, yeah, I'm supposed to save everybody, or it's not my responsibility, like I didn't ask for this type of thing?
It seems like Ellie is looking for more of a purpose in her life, right? Because what we learned from her is that basically she was dropped off at this place, which was basically an orphanage. So she never had any family. And I feel like this is maybe her opportunity to become something. And for her, it could be this savior role. But we also have an interesting conversation between Ellie and Marlene, right? It seems that they have someone in common or something like that.
Yeah, I'm not going to spoil this because I feel like it's going to be maybe the next episode or the third episode. There is a prologue that came out for the game
right
after the game called Left Behind. And she does name drop Riley. And Riley's a very important person in Ellie's life. But they also know, Marlene knows Riley as well. Mm-hmm. So Ellie kind of is being raised almost in like the Fedra Academy. That's where orphans go. They're just going to be raised into being soldiers, essentially. Because why not? They don't have orphanages, so just make them into soldiers.
Mm-hmm. But we see now that we have Joel and Tess who are trying to head west. And now we have Ellie that also needs to go west. The thing that happened at some point in time, Tommy, his brother, joined the Fireflies and left Boston.
He drank the juice and left Boston.
Well, you know what, though? I want to talk about this. Is drinking the Firefly juice a bad thing? Right? Because it's like Fedra's bad. But the Fireflies are bad? Everyone's bad.
It's not, I don't think it's necessarily about being bad. I think it's almost what is worth your time. Because you're in a post-apocalyptic world and the Fireflies are constantly being hunted by the government. So it's like, do you want to spend your life doing that? Or do you want to spend your life being a smuggler and giving people drugs and also getting those quarantine bucks? So it's interesting. I'm not.
It's all bad.
Yeah, right. I mean, so I think it's almost what you view. You do see somebody go up to Joel in this episode and almost try to like
It feels like a cult at that point.
yeah, it's very much like knocking on your door, like, hi, have you heard about Jesus Christ?
Do you
And
need
it's
some sunshine in your life?
right. And I think that's how they see them almost. So
They
you have-
almost feel like zealots in a way.
right. You have Marlene who doesn't seem that way and she's just fighting for the cause and she knows what to do. But then you have almost like the recruiters that do feel that almost culty-ish way of recruiting people. So
Like Jesus and his followers.
yeah. So Robert, the dude that is like double selling their battery and everything like that, this was my only gripe with this episode.
Hit it.
Only gripe, only because I played the games. They do this same exact situation happens in the game. And there's a part in there where you're Joel and Tess and you have to like stealth kill a bunch of people, get to Robert and whatever, get revenge and get your stuff back. It was an interesting choice for them to not kill Robert. I almost felt like it softened them a little bit because we hear this talk of like Joel's scary and, you know, Tess is a badass and stuff like that. And we do see that. But for them to, I don't know, the kind of skip that part, I felt like that was one of the first instances where you're like, oh, like Joel is kind of scary. Like what? He's really broken. So it was interesting for me personally to be like, oh, they kind of skipped over that a little bit.
You know, I think that there's something to be said about what is the first time we see Joel have blood on his hands. What does that mean for the character?
Sadness.
Right. Well, I'm sorry. I should say in 2023, the first time we see him have blood on his hands. You know what I mean? So if it's just this guy who isn't going to make it past the first episode, what does that mean to us as the viewer?
That's a good point.
Versus when we actually do see him kill someone in 2023. There we go. That makes more sense to us.
Yeah, I like the situation that Joel and Tess are in, that also Marlene and Ellie are in. How they meet is great. And Joel's reluctantness just right off the bat with her being like, you have to take him. I'm shot. I can't do this. You have to take her. Like, this is important. He's like, no.
Yeah, nothing says, hi, I'm your new dad, like throwing you into a wall after you tried to stab me.
The Bella Ramsey embodied this character so well.
This actor, this person
Mhm.
is just, I mean, think of them in Game of Thrones when they were like 9 or
But
10.
also, you were terrified of them.
That's what I mean. The power that this person has as an actor is incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, literally gripped the nation, gripped the world in Game of Thrones.
with like 2 scenes.
Yes. But like that character was just so fierce. She brought it to life. And so here we have them again.
Every time Bella Ramsey as Ellie said fuck or asshole, it made my heart grow 3 times because it's such an odd thing, but like that's the character. Like being able to say it with that much confidence, but also that naive but stubbornness behind it. I might just be thinking too much about it, but every time she said it, I was like, that's Ellie. Like that is Ellie.
Even the cadence of her voice, I felt like really matched the character in the game.
I do know that the actor that played Ellie in the games, she is in the show. Obviously not playing Ellie,
Right.
but she is going to be in the show. So I think that's cool. The actor that also played Joel is going to be in the show. So it's cool that they're making these new characters to kind of get these people that made this game what it is, or people that know them, and giving them their time in the light.
Well, not to mention the ultimate video game to screen appearance of Merle Dandridge as Marlene.
Marlene. She is Marlene.
She is Marlene.
Is Marlene again.
Yes.
HBO, one of my favorite things that they do with their shows, especially the big shows, is that at the very end of them, after you see like what's on the next episode, they always have a look inside the episode. And the first one, they had the creators, directors, writers talk about this and some of the cast members. But the one with Merle and her talking about it, she's like, I'm not sure who kind of told me that this was happening, but she's like, Mama want that. Because she is her.
Yes.
Like, how would you not give it to her?
But that's the thing is that it's exciting that they did that.
Yeah.
They honored the character, they honored the actor by putting them into the role, and it just makes sense.
It was cool for her to say, because this game came out
A decade ago?
A decade ago, yeah. The first one. And it was cool for her to talk about the character from then to now and, you know, the audition process. But she even said this line that I was like, that's awesome. She grew into the character. Like she aged almost into the character and also who she is. So that was cool. It was almost like she's just waiting to to get this role. The line that she says to her partner after missing the ear, when that person is like, "Oh, I'll take Ellie," she's like, "You don't even have an ear on your head." She doesn't. She got her. She got her.
We did not see this ambush moment. We came in after the big fight, so we're kind of thrown into the aftermath of what happened. And it is right. So there were all these chances for us to see more action, but we really didn't get it.
I like that. I think in an early interview, the creators of the show were talking about how the violence in the show is less than the game. Makes sense because we're not actively fighting and doing all these things, but they toned it down, the quantity of it. So that way the quality of when it happens is more impactful. And the lead up to the almost final scene of the show where they have to smuggle Ellie out of the quarantine zone during night in the rain, past all the soldiers, we get to see a little bit of this, but it's shocking because sometimes you almost forget, like, oh, this could happen at any moment in the show. And I like the catalyst for this. Joel and Tess need something. He needs to get to his brother in Wyoming. They are just going to take her to the Firefly people, and they're also going to get a car and a truck, whatever they want. So it's like, well, why not just take this person and do it?
Yeah, at this point, it's a means to an end.
Exactly. And when the soldier that Joel was giving drugs to is peeing and happens to catch them outside of the quarantine zone, they start checking if people are infected. And this is Ellie's opportunity to either run and not let them know about this, because Marlene told her, don't tell anybody about this. Imagine if people found out that she was immune. Imagine what the government would do to her or how somebody would act. Ooh, she needs to keep it a secret as much as she can.
But what was she supposed to do in that moment, especially when they saw whatever that infection device is, when it turns red, that screen, that's the red screen of death.
Yeah.
She had to tell them, these are the people that are supposed to bring her to safety.
Yeah. And we get that opposite end, almost reflection of the time where the soldier was pointing the gun at Sarah and Joel. Now we get the soldier pointing at Ellie, and what is Joel going to do? So he defends her. Right. I mean, this is his chance to redeem himself and to do it over again.
Exactly.
And I don't blame him.
No, not at all.
100%. I think it was okay. I think the extent maybe was a little too much, but that just shows the brutality of Joel.
And also, though, 20 years of pent up anger about what happened to his daughter came out through his fists onto that guy's face.
It was ground meat by the time.
Oh, yeah.
He was done.
Yeah.
He was done. And I loved that if you watch the inside of this episode, and they said it beautifully, so I kind of want to say how they say it. They said that Ellie sees this and she's activated. She sees this and she likes that somebody wants to defend her in this way, and she wants to almost be that.
She's drinking it in. The look in her eyes is wild. She looks like a beast ready to explode. Like she has like a bloodlust. Like Bella does such a good job of portraying this moment. She can't take it in enough.
Yeah, because you don't see a smirk. You don't see terror. You see like, oh, okay, I'm liking this.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is dangerous. It's very dangerous, but that's what makes them so good for each other.
But I also think portrayed in a child.
Yeah.
Right? We rarely see that. Not to go back to Game of Thrones, but like we haven't seen a bloodthirsty child since Joffrey. Do you know what I mean? Like she's not that, but it's just that same thing of when a child has that primal want.
It's that need to do what you have to do. And especially in this type of world, because if you hesitate, if you don't do it, you will die.
It's you or them.
It's you or them.
World. Yeah.
And the fact that Ellie, I think, being in this type of situation and what happened to her prior, I think she's seeing what she's needed because she hesitated. And now she sees somebody that can help her not do that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of where the journey continues from there. They get out of the zone. You see these leaning skyscrapers completely dilapidated. But with lightning, oh, it just looks so cool. This HBO money's great.
Yeah, and one thing for this last scene, right? So when they're back in the apartment, there's this whole code with the radio, right? If it's 60s music, it means one thing. 70s, 80s is bad.
Trouble.
And as they are going into this desolate skyline, we hear music from the 80s.
Depeche Mode.
Oh,
Yeah, we hear Depeche Mode, which is my childhood, and it means trouble.
Dad, what do you think?
I like that. I like that they're incorporating music. It's a very important part in the game, and it adds something. I think when you're very smart with how you incorporate music into a property that's this terrifying and awful, but also beautiful in some way, it just adds to it almost. I'm liking that they're planting the seeds for Ellie being in love with music, because it's. I can't wait. I wonder if Bella Ramsey can sing. She gets a guitar at one point. I wonder if she can sing.
That's the mystery of the season.
If she can, if they pull this off, then it's perfect.
Guess who is coming into The Last of Us? Ed Sheeran, baby.
Stop it.
Everyone's favorite traveling
worst
musician.
Cameo in any history of television is Ed Sheeran literally being Ed Sheeran in Game of Thrones. I can't stop.
I mean, that poor guy really got hell for that. He thought he was having so much fun, the world turned on him.
I mean, he's great. Just weird cameo.
I mean, not his fault.
No. Their fault. But he did it.
I do want to say that I am looking forward to hopefully some more zombie action.
Right.
I love how the zombies...
We call them infected, by the way.
Infected, sorry.
How dare you?
I like how the infected look in this. They really did design the spores and the vines and whatever you want to call it.
Tendrils.
The tendrils. Yeah, I was going to say tendrils too. The mouth vines that come out. They designed it after the cordyceps. That's what it looks like when it's blooming from the ant.
Yeah, this fungi is terrifying. Like, have you seen the actual fungi, like, tubular thing
Yes.
that it is before that?
Yes.
The color's beautiful, but you can see that color being replicated in like the clickers that we've seen in the promos and everything. So they put some thought into this. It's great. I'm excited for that. I think the next episode is actually called Infected, and where they were going did not look like there was not infected there.
Infected Depeche Mode is waiting for them.
I'm excited. I'm very excited for this. I think they're off to a fantastic start. If they keep with this momentum, they have a hit.
I think that's the key, is the momentum, right? So much a first episode, it sets the tone, and the tone they set with this was fantastic, but can they keep it going? That's my hope. I want them to keep it going, because as we've seen, not to bring up The Walking Dead again.
How dare.
But gosh, could it get mundane after a while, and it's the same thing over and over again?
This is based off of a singular game that they're doing this season on. So I think with that knowledge, and they only have this much to work with, I feel like they can kind of hone in on exactly what they want to do. The Walking Dead, I fell off after like 4 seasons, I think.
Is it still on?
No, it ended. I think it ended.
Okay.
I feel like it's always been on.
That's what I mean. It's like always in the background.
I know there's a Michonne and Rick spinoff
Rick
gonna be happening, so I don't know. I'm excited for people that are thinking that this is The Walking Dead to find out that it's not. And if they go with what I'm hoping they will go with, then it's gonna be another Game of Thrones on their hand, essentially.
Again, Game of Thrones. I feel like the beginning credits of this felt like the map of Game of Thrones, only it was spores.
They might like doing that. I feel like that's pretty similar with some of HBO's open credits. I think because of Game of Thrones, they're like, these credits are amazing. It's almost like the map in the beginning of a fantasy novel. Where it's like,
sure.
Here's all the things we're going to show you.
Yeah, unfortunately, this map is fungi growing on a corpse.
It's one I do not want to feel.
No, not great.
It seems like it feels gross.
Sure does. Fuzzy.
Yucky. So next week we have the second episode. I'm very excited. I want to see where the show goes. I'm here for the journey. I want to see where Ellie's journey leads, where this season's going to end. Are we going to get a second one? Please don't cancel another show.
Oh gosh. Well, you never know, but I feel like there are so many people that are rooting for the show. I think there are so many fans of the video games, and from what I've seen just in my own little Twitter sphere is that people are so happy with it.
Right. Yeah.
So I think they have that going for them, and they'd be foolish to get rid of it.
I want to say, as far as series premieres go, this is probably the top of this is how you do a series premiere. You give so much, but you don't give away a lot. And they set up the groundwork already. We know everything going forward as far as how the world works, what's there. They did that all. It was a little long, but they did all of that in the first episode. Now we just have the journey from here to there. So let us know what you think. Comment below. That means anywhere.
Anywhere.
Let us know what you think of the first episode. Did it live up to your expectations? Are you excited? Do you not want to watch anymore? We'd be happy to hear about that.
Have you been infected?
So you can say it, but I can't say
I
it.
said it once.
But you called them zombies.
Well, look, I apologize.
I'm really upset that they don't call the fast zombies zombies. Instead of runners, it could just be zombies.
Zombies. I like that.
All right, I'm going to end it on that.
Hashtag zombies.
Goodbye.
Bye. Thanks for listening to A Bite of. Artwork and editing by our own Noah. Be sure to follow us on Instagram and Twitter at A Bite of Pod, and on Facebook at A Bite of. If you have any questions, recommendations, or just want to say hi, you can contact us on abiteofpod.com. Please be sure to subscribe, rate, and review to spread the word. See you next time on A Bite of. Bye.